We celebrate the 4th of July as a reminder of earning our independence from a tyrannical and oppressive government. Just a reminder to the Obama administration, there's plenty of room on the calendar for another holiday.
Now, how is the First Amendment doing this 4th of July, or the Fourth Amendment for that matter? The NSA is now going to be resuming its Dragnet surveillance. You thought that was over? Of course, it's not over. They're coming back, and of course, they're coming back with a secret court authorization. The story that's up on Infowars.com from New American: Secret Court revives NSA bulk surveillance. Mass surveillance can carry on as before, at least for now. There'll be some minor adjustments later on, but right now they're going to go back to exactly what they were doing. On June 29th, a secret court ruled that a federal court and Congress were wrong to end the NSA's bulk collection of phone metadata. Therefore, the mass surveillance can carry on as before for now. And of course, who is that secret court? Well, that's the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, created as part of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. Where did we get that? The irony is that the FISA Act, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, was created in response to the Church Committee hearings back in 1975. In those hearings, we saw what the CIA was doing. In the Pike Committee hearings in the House, we saw what the NSA was doing. As a matter of fact, we got a glimpse of the fact that the NSA existed for the first time. And of course, they premiered with the understanding that they and the CIA were eavesdropping on Americans. So what they did was they created the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, said, we're going to keep intelligence. We've got to have these intelligence agencies, but they're going to be limited to foreign actions. You're not going to let you spy on Americans. How's that working out for us? It didn't work out too well, did it? As a matter of fact, William Colby, who was director of the CIA then, probably one of the most transparent directors we've had of the CIA, he showed the family jewels, and for that he got fired and replaced by George H.W. Bush. George Bush's son, W, in 2008, amended the FISA Act and created the monster that we see today. Of course, it wasn't just that stroke of legislation. It had been going on for quite some time. He just legitimized the criminal actions that they had been engaged in for decades. Now, as I point out in the article, the so-called FISA court, and it's not a court, it is a single individual. There is no antagonist there arguing for the other side. Is simply a single judge, and the government goes to that single judge. But they nevertheless maintain the fiction that it is a court. It is a court in the same sense that the Star Chamber was a court. They say the so-called FISA court is now used as a tool for rubber stamping unwarranted surveillance from the Bush administration on. Of course, we give the credit to Obama, but it's something that Bush really amended the law. And again, that was to give them cover for something they had been doing for decades. And this is what the FISC judge said. He said, the Second Circuit rulings are not binding on the FISC, and this court respectfully disagrees with that court's analysis, especially in the view of the intervening enactment of the USA Freedom Act. So I guess there's kind of a silver lining in that. There is a division of power again in Washington. But instead of it being the executive, judicial, and legislative branches, the division of power is the CIA, the NSA, and everybody else. And guess what? Everybody else doesn't matter. And he points out, he finishes up with this summary. He says, the court that was established specifically to judge the merits of applications by the government to spy on citizens gave a green light to the NSA to keep spying on Americans, ignoring completely the will of the people, of their representatives in Congress, and the plain language of the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution. Welcome to America on this 4th of July, 2015 weekend, where we now have a completely secret government. And of course, that USA Freedom Act is going to reform the abuses we've seen from the FISA court, because now when they make their secret decisions, they're going to tell us what they've decided. The trial will still be secret. It won't be an adversarial relationship. They'll still say that they have the power to amend the Constitution, to shut down the courts, to shut down the Congress, to ignore the Constitution. But they'll tell us, they say, when they're going to do that from now on, unlike the president's secret executive orders, his PPDs that we talked about yesterday on the radio. Now, how are they selling all of this? Because the mainstream media is losing not only credibility, but audience. John Rappaport points out on his blog that they're going to use it with social media. They're turning social media into the Mockingbird press in some very unique ways. It's Facebook and Apple. We're going to take a look at both of these. He points out in one of these blogs that he's got, Facebook becomes Godzilla news outlet for disinformation. And this is what he has to say about the mainstream media, and which is very good the way he put this. He says, every large mainstream news source is in the business of disinformation. You know, the Mockingbird program from the CIA. He says stories with no context, outright lies, omission of vital data, claims of overwhelming consensus on issues where no such consensus exists, internal censorship of their own budding investigations into high-level crimes, disguised partisan opinions. They manufacture the reality for the government, for corporations, for others who control society. Now, when they're using social media, people are getting their information now more from social media than they are from the mainstream press. 64% of it coming from Facebook, he points out. Over 1.25 billion people use Facebook's platform. So now they're coming up with a program called Instant Articles. He says this is the basic setup. They're going to have mainstream media outlets put their news stories on Facebook's platform. By that simple transfer, more than 1 billion Facebook users will see these stories, will absorb them, believe them, accept them. It's a lifeline for traditional media companies that are hemorrhaging viewers and readers. So basically what they do is they put a new trendy face on the same old tired propaganda. But he points out that Apple actually has another approach on it. This is the new operating system coming out, iOS 9, and they're talking about a new news service that they're going to embed in the next iOS for iPhones, iPads, etc. They say Apple News, part of the upcoming operating system from Apple, aims to be the primary news source for users of iPhone and iPad. Apple says its new news app follows over 1 million topics and will pull relevant stories based on your specific interests. Through the awesome power of default, says one analyst of the Journalism Lab, he says Apple's distribution puts it in an entirely different league. This news app will be on hundreds of millions of devices within 24 hours of its debut. Now, John Rappaport breaks it down. He says, listen, this is what they're really doing. They're profiling us down to our toenails. He said, Apple will present the public with a virtual bubble of what they want to see and read. He says, so you're an Obama fan? Here's stories confirming your belief in the prophet. You want neocons on the rock with a little bit of conservative Republican twist? Here's some war footage that'll warm your heart. Or you're tuned into celebrity gossip? Here's your world in just 3 minutes. And he points out this is really decentralized centralization. Because what happens if you're one of those fringe users? Let's say that you're doubtful about GMOs. Well, don't worry. They'll give you a story that tells you how Whole Foods is planning a healthier produce section. So cheer up, nothing to worry about. And you won't see any news about how Maui shut down GMO growing on the island because they didn't want to have contamination of the non-GMO crops from Monsanto. If you're anti-vaccine, forget about it. They're not going to give you any information. They might give you, as he puts it, a piece about a little unvaccinated boy who was involved in a car crash on I-95. That's the way they're going to control the news. It'll still be the same old recycled mainstream media stuff, but they will confine what you see by doing it through your phone and by doing it through Facebook, making it easy, making it free for you so they can push their agenda on you. Now, when it comes to trying to get information from the government, when we actually have somebody who's trying to do journalism, we know that we get hit all the time with a stone wall. You can't get anything out of the government. Columbia Journalism Review points out what happened to a citizen, not even a journalist, a citizen who asked his own government for some information that he was entitled to. The title of the article is When Governments Sue Public Records Requesters. They not only did they not give him the information, they turned around and tried to get punitive with him, tried to sue him over this. They say, when you send a public records request to a government agency, you might expect a delayed response. You might expect high cost to fulfill it, even a denial, but you probably don't expect to be sued by the agency. Yet, that very thing happened recently in New Jersey, prompting a judge last week to dismiss the suit and conclude that a public policy that enables the authorities to sue a requester would be the antithesis of open government. But you know, what we have is the antithesis of an open government, absolutely. In this case, a private citizen sent a request to the Hamilton Township in New Jersey. Now, he was entitled to that information under the Open Public Records Act and the state common law right of access to public records. But a few weeks later, instead of responding to him, they sued him and they asked a local court for relief from any obligation to respond. So it wasn't just a legal tactic, however, they also came after him for attorney's fees. That's what they did. They sued him for attorney's fees and said, we're going to establish this in court that we don't have to respond to you. He narrowed his request. Well, maybe it's too broad. He narrowed his request, but they refused to drop the lawsuit. So there you go. On this 2015, we've got a government that's not only created swarms of officers and sent them among the people to harass us and to eat out our substance, but they now have that kind of arrogant attitude. If we even ask what they're doing, they're not about to show us. And if we ask, they just may sue us and try to recover financial payment from us for having the audacity to ask the emperor about what he is doing. Well, that's it for our news tonight. If you're watching this on YouTube, please consider subscribing to our channel. Even better, if you will support the operation, you can get the news every night as a subscriber to Prison Planet TV. You can get the news as it's happening. You can share it with up to 20 other users, as well as all of Alex Jones's documentaries. And as I mentioned earlier in the program, even books that Alex has up there you can get in PDF format. Join us again tomorrow at 7 Central, 8 p.m. Eastern.
I want to talk about a perfect storm today. And the perfect storm I'm going to discuss is a really good perfect storm. I have prayed, literally, to be able to find a high-quality gun sponsor that is affordable and that is extremely well-made and effective that I can promote to my audience. About 6 months ago, we get contacted by Head Down Firearms, hdfirearms.com. Low cost compared to competitors, super high quality, super lightweight, super accurate, and the experts salivate over it and love it. Their entire line of 5.56, 308, and their accessories are simply amazing, and it's designed by battle-hardened vets that know what they wish they would have had. You need to go to hdfirearms.com today, or you can visit headdownproducts.com. That's headdownproducts.com.
Mass surveillance can carry on as before for now. And of course, who is that secret court? Well, that's the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, created as part of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. Where did we get that? The irony is that the FISA Act, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, was created in response to the Church Committee hearings back in 1975. Now, how is the First Amendment doing this 4th of July, or the Fourth Amendment for that matter? The NSA is now going to be resuming its Dragnet surveillance. You thought that was over? Of course it's not over. They're coming back, and of course they're coming back with a secret court authorization. The story that's up on Infowars.com from New American: Secret Court revives NSA bulk surveillance. Mass surveillance can carry on as before, at least for now. There'll be some minor adjustments later on, but right now they're going to go back to exactly what they were doing. On June 29th, a secret court ruled that a federal court and Congress were wrong to end the NSA's bulk collection of phone metadata. Therefore,
We celebrate the 4th of July as a reminder of earning our independence from a tyrannical and oppressive government. Just a reminder to the Obama administration, there's plenty of room on the calendar for another holiday.
In those hearings, we saw what the CIA was doing. In the Pike Committee hearings in the House, we saw what the NSA was doing. As a matter of fact, we got a glimpse of the fact that the NSA existed for the first time. And of course, they premiered with the understanding that they and the CIA were eavesdropping on Americans. So what they did was they created the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, said, we're going